I'll make you CEO if you translate this in front of everyone. Victor Blackwood's voice echoes through the ballroom of the Fairmont Copley Plaza in Boston. 300 heads turn toward center stage. The millionaire holds a contract in one hand and points with the other to a woman in a gray uniform cleaning empty glasses by the bar. Claire Rivers freezes. The tray trembles between her fingers. Laughter erupts like broken glass. Loud, sharp, cruel cackles. Victor smiles, showing perfect white teeth. He wears a Savile Row suit that costs more than 6 months of Claire's salary. His watch gleams beneath the crystal chandeliers. "What's wrong, dear?" Victor continues, approaching her with slow, theatrical steps. "Can't you read? Or is it that English isn't taught in— Where was it you studied?" More laughter. Robert Mitchell, an executive in a red tie, applauds as if watching a comedy show. A blonde woman in a silk dress covers her mouth, feigning surprise. Claire looks down. Her heart beats so hard she feels the pulse in her temples. The gray uniform hangs loose on her, hands rough from detergent, 34 years carrying the weight of the invisible world. "Come on, don't be shy," Victor insists, extending the document toward her. "You just have to read this aloud and translate it. If you do it well, I promise you here, in front of all these witnesses," he pauses dramatically, "that I'll name you CEO of my company." The room explodes in applause and whistles. Someone shouts, "Do it, woman! You'll be a millionaire!" Claire lifts her gaze. Her dark eyes lock onto Victor's. For a second, just 1 second, something flashes in that look. Something the millionaire didn't expect. Dignity. She sets the tray on a table. Walks toward the stage with firm but silent steps. The murmuring grows. The lights blind her. The air smells of expensive perfume and cruelty. She takes the contract from Victor's hands, and then she says, "I accept." The room falls into absolute silence. If this story has already touched your heart in this first minute, subscribe to the channel. Here you'll find stories that heal, inspire, and make you believe in human goodness again. 3 hours earlier, Claire Rivers arrives at the Fairmont Copley Plaza at 5 in the afternoon. The sun still warms the cobblestone streets. She carries a worn backpack and white sneakers that were once new. She enters through the service door, as always. No one greets her. No one sees her. In the staff locker room, she changes quickly. Gray uniform, white apron. She pulls her brown hair into a tight ponytail. In front of the cracked mirror, she takes a deep breath. "Another day," she whispers. "Just another day." Mary Walsh enters, drying her hands. "Ready for tonight's gala?" Mary asks in a tired tone. It's going to be full of important people, or rather people who think they're important. Claire barely smiles. "It's always the same, Mary. They talk, we clean. At least they pay extra for evening events," Mary says with a shrug. "My son needs books for school." Claire nods. She understands perfectly. Her son Matthew is 11 years old. He lives with his grandmother in a small town 30 miles from the city. Claire sees him on Sundays, only Sundays. Every night she cleans hotels, offices, public restrooms. Every night she returns to a rented room that barely has space for a bed. But Matthew eats every day. He has clean clothes. He goes to a good school. That's all that matters. At 7 in the evening, the ballroom fills with guests. Long dresses, dark suits, jewelry that shines like empty promises. Claire and 5 other employees circulate among the tables, collecting glasses, serving hors d'oeuvres, cleaning spills. They are ghosts. No one looks at them. Victor Blackwood takes the stage. Thunderous applause, forced smiles. He begins his speech with a powerful, confident voice. He speaks of effort, of merit, of the importance of hard work. Claire listens while cleaning a spilled champagne flute. She wants to laugh. She wants to cry. But she does neither. She just cleans. Then it happens. A man bumps into her. Robert Mitchell, executive with a red tie and whiskey breath. The tray falls. Crystal explodes against the marble floor. The noise cuts through the air like a knife. Everyone looks. Victor stops his speech. His eyes fix on Claire, cold, calculating. "Well, well," he says with false surprise. "Seems we have an interruption." Nervous laughter ripples through the room. Claire kneels to pick up the glass. Her hands tremble. She feels 300 pairs of eyes fixed on her back. "No, no, wait," Victor says, stepping down from the stage. "Don't leave yet. I think we have a unique opportunity here." He approaches her. He pulls a document from his jacket. A legal contract. Pages and pages of small print in English. And then he says it. "I'll make you CEO if you translate this in front of everyone." The room erupts. Claire stands slowly. Broken glass crunches under her sneakers. Victor extends the contract to her with a predator's smile. "Come on," he insists. "You just have to read and translate. How hard can it be for someone as hard-working as you?" Robert Mitchell laughs loudly. "This is going to be better than the main event." But then, from a side table, a female voice breaks through the chorus of laughter. "Dad, this isn't funny. Lauren Blackwood, 28 years old, elegant black dress, green eyes full of second-hand shame, Victor's only daughter. She studied international law but never worked a day in her life." "Honey, it's just a game," Victor responds without looking at her. "Relax. It's not a game. It's cruelty," Lauren says quietly, but several hear her. Victor ignores his daughter. He looks back at Claire. "So, what do you say? Do you accept my offer?" Claire looks at the contract. Then she looks at Victor. Then she looks at the room full of rich and powerful people waiting to see her fail. And in that moment, something breaks inside her. It's not anger. It's not fear. It's clarity. "I accept," she says with a firm voice. The room falls silent. Claire has just accepted an impossible challenge in front of 300 witnesses. What secret does this invisible woman hide? Can she really translate a complex legal contract? Or has she just signed her own public humiliation? Claire climbs onto the stage with slow steps. Each stair creaks under her weight. The lights blind her. 300 people watch her like an animal in a zoo. Victor hands her the contract with a mocking bow. "Go ahead, dear. The stage is yours." Robert Mitchell shouts from his table, "I have to record this!" He pulls out his phone. Others imitate him. Flashes, laughter, murmurs. Claire holds the document with both hands. 12 pages, small print, legal terms, technical English. The paper trembles slightly between her fingers. She takes a deep breath. She begins to read. "This agreement is entered into on the 15th day of March, 2025, between—" Her voice sounds hoarse at first, unsure. She stumbles over a word, stops, swallows. Laughter erupts like fireworks. "She can't even read," someone shouts. "This is pure gold," says another. Victor crosses his arms and smiles. Easy victory. He knew this would happen. It always happens. The poor are poor because they don't know, because they can't, because they don't deserve. But then Claire lifts her head. She closes her eyes for 1 second, 2, 3, and when she opens them, something has changed. Her voice no longer trembles. "This agreement is entered into on the 15th day of March, 2025, between Victor Blackwood Associates, hereinafter referred to as the contractor, and—" The words flow, clear, precise, without hesitation. The murmur in the room changes tone. It's no longer mockery. It's surprise. Claire continues. "The contracted party accepts the terms and conditions established in the following clauses, including but not limited to financial compensation, work obligations, confidentiality, and dispute resolution through binding arbitration." Victor stops, smiling. Wait, he interrupts her. "You don't just have to read. You have to translate each clause, precisely." Claire looks him straight in the eyes. "That's exactly what I'm doing." She turns to the second page. Her finger traces the lines as she reads aloud. Clause 3. Compensation and benefits. The contractor shall receive a base salary of $65,000 per annum. She translates without pausing. Clause 3. Compensation and benefits. The contractor shall receive a base salary of $65,000 per annum. The room is in absolute silence now. Only her voice can be heard. Firm, confident, almost musical. Mary Walsh, from the back of the room, smiles with tears in her eyes. She's known Claire for 3 years. She knows she cleans offices until dawn. She knows she lives in a 7-by-10-foot room. She knows her uniform is mended at the elbows. But she never knew this. Nobody knew. Claire reaches the 4th page, a long, complex clause, full of legal jargon. In the event of breach of contract by either party, the non-breaching party shall be entitled to seek remedies, including but not limited to specific performance, monetary damages, and injunctive relief, provided that written notice has been given at least 30 days prior to the initiation of legal proceedings. She breathes. Translates. In the event of breach of contract by either party, the non-breaching party shall be entitled to seek remedies including but not limited to specific performance, monetary damages, and injunctive relief, provided that written notice has been given at least 30 days prior to the initiation of legal proceedings. A man in a gray suit stands up. James Thornton, Victor's corporate lawyer for 15 years. He knows that contract by heart. He drafted it himself. That's correct, he says in a trembling voice. Word for word. Victor clenches his jaw. His hands close into fists. Anyone can memorize a few phrases, he says in a dry tone. I didn't memorize them, Claire responds without looking away from the paper. I'm translating them. She continues reading. Page 5, 6, 7. Each clause is more complex than the last. Terms like force majeure, indemnification, liquidated damages, non-compete agreement. Claire translates them all. Force majeure, indemnification, liquidated damages, non-compete agreement. Her voice never fails. Her hands no longer tremble. She's in another place, in another time. She's in a university library at 3 in the morning. She's 22 years old. Books piled in front of her, dictionaries, grammar books, simultaneous translation exams. She's in a small classroom where a professor with a British accent tells her, Miss Rivers, you have a gift. She's at the exact moment she discovered she was pregnant, alone, without money, without family to support her. She's at the most difficult decision of her life, abandoning university 6 months before graduation to work and care for her son. But the knowledge never left. It was just waiting. Claire finishes page 9, 3 more remain. Victor goes up on stage and snatches the contract from her hands. Enough, he says in a harsh voice. You've made your point. My point? Claire asks. You challenged me. I accepted. I'm not finished yet. It's not necessary. This was just a what? She interrupts him. A game? A joke? A way to humiliate someone you consider inferior? The silence is dense, heavy, uncomfortable. Lauren Blackwood stands up. Let her finish, Dad. Victor looks at his daughter. Then he looks at Claire. Then he looks at the audience now watching him with different eyes. He returns the contract to her. Finish, he says through gritted teeth. Claire takes the document. She reaches the final clause, the most important one, the one Victor hoped no one would ever read. She begins to read aloud. Clause 12, Waiver of Rights. By signing this agreement, the contractor hereby waives any and all rights to legal recourse in matters pertaining to workplace safety, overtime compensation, and unlawful termination. This waiver is absolute, irrevocable, and binding in perpetuity. Her voice becomes slower, heavier. She translates with brutal clarity. Clause 12, Waiver of Rights. By signing this agreement, the contractor hereby waives any and all rights to legal recourse in matters pertaining to workplace safety, overtime compensation, and unlawful termination. This waiver is absolute, irrevocable, and binding in perpetuity. She lets the words float in the air. She looks at Victor. This contract, she says in a firm voice, was designed to strip basic rights from whoever signs it. Under the appearance of legality, it's a trap, a way to exploit vulnerable workers who don't understand the language or don't have access to legal counsel. The room explodes in murmurs. Victor takes a step toward her. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know exactly what I'm talking about," Claire responds. "I studied law and translation at Harvard. 4 years, outstanding average. I dropped out 6 months before graduating because I got pregnant and had no way to pay for the last semester." The words fall like stones in still water. But I never stopped reading. I never stopped studying. Every night after cleaning offices like this one, I read contracts, treaties, labor legislation, because someday, I would need that knowledge. Victor steps back. His face is pale. "Today," Claire continues, "is that day." Claire has just revealed a secret no one expected. But Victor Blackwood is not a man who accepts defeat easily. What will the millionaire do now? Will he keep his promise or find a way to escape? The ballroom seems frozen in time. No one speaks. No one moves. Everyone stares at the woman in a gray uniform who has just disarmed one of Boston's most powerful men with nothing more than words. Victor Blackwood breathes through his nose. His hands tremble slightly. Never in his life has anyone left him speechless in front of 300 witnesses. "Very nice speech," he finally says, recovering some composure. "But translating a couple of clauses doesn't make you a lawyer, and it definitely doesn't make you a CEO. Claire holds his gaze without blinking. "You made a public promise, in front of all these witnesses. It was a joke. Everyone knows that." "A joke?" Claire asks, tilting her head slightly. "Like when you fire employees the day before Christmas to save bonuses, like when you force them to sign contracts in languages they don't understand, like when—" "Enough!" Victor shouts. His voice echoes through the room. "You know nothing about how I run my business." "I know more than you imagine," Claire responds calmly. "I've been cleaning your offices for 3 years. I've seen documents, I've heard conversations, I've read emails in wastebaskets that should never have been printed." Victor's face turns red. "Are you threatening me?" "No. I'm reminding you that you made a promise. And there are 300 people here who can confirm it." James Thornton, the lawyer, approaches the stage. He climbs the steps slowly. He carries the contract in his hands. "Victor," he says quietly, "technically she's right. You made a public offer. There are witnesses. If she fulfilled the terms—" "Don't be ridiculous," Victor interrupts him. "Do you really think I'm going to name a cleaning woman CEO?" The words hang in the air like poison. Lauren Blackwood rises from her table. She walks toward the stage with firm steps. Her black dress flows behind her. She climbs onto the stage and stands beside Claire. "Dad," she says, looking him straight in the eyes, "for once in your life, do the right thing." Victor looks at her as if he doesn't recognize her. "Lauren, this isn't your business." "Yes, it is. Because I've spent 28 years watching how you treat people, how you use them, how you discard them. And I'm tired of pretending I don't care." Her voice trembles, but she doesn't stop. "This woman studied 4 years at university. She left due to circumstances you've never had to face, and still she kept learning, kept fighting, while you inherited everything from your father. You never had to prove anything." "Lauren, enough," Victor says in a dangerously low voice. "No, I won't be silent anymore." Robert Mitchell stands up from his table. "Victor, friend, maybe we should—" "Sit down, Robert," Victor shouts. The executive sits immediately. The room is charged with tension. Pure electricity. Claire takes a step forward. Mr. Blackwood, I don't need to be CEO. I never wanted it. But you made a promise to humiliate me, to prove I was nothing, that I could never be at your level. Her voice is firm but not aggressive, calm but powerful. And now that I've proven otherwise, you want to back out. Because it turns out, the invisible woman who cleans your offices knows more than half your executives. Some in the audience nod. Others look down, uncomfortable. I didn't ask for this, Claire continues. I didn't ask to be the center of attention. I didn't ask to be humiliated in front of hundreds of people. But here I am. And now everyone is waiting to see what you do. Victor clenches his fists. He searches for an exit. A way to save his reputation without keeping his promise. If you're so smart, he says in a cold voice, you should know a CEO needs more than translating contracts. Needs vision, leadership, business experience. You're right, Claire responds. And you don't have any of those things. You only have inherited money and contacts who fear you. The room gasps collectively. Victor takes a step toward her. His eyes shine with contained rage. You know what? You've got guts. I'll give you that. But you're also naive. You think because you read some books you can play in my world. But this world doesn't forgive mistakes. And you're making a huge one right now. The only mistake, Claire says, would be letting you get away with it. Again. James Thornton clears his throat. Victor, there's a middle solution. We could... I don't want middle solutions, Claire interrupts. I want you to keep your word, or publicly admit you never intended to. The silence is absolute. Victor looks around. He sees familiar faces, partners, clients, journalists, all with phones in their hands, recording, photographing. If he backs out, it will be news. Millionaire humiliates employee and breaks public promise. If he complies, it will also be news. Cleaning woman becomes CEO. Either way, he loses. Fine, he finally says in an icy voice. You want to play this game? Let's play. He pulls another document from his inside jacket. It's thicker than the previous one. Pages and pages of even smaller print. This, he says, holding the paper in front of Claire, is an international merger contract. 50 pages. Complex legal terms in British English, tax clauses, European regulations. If you can translate this completely without errors, then I'll keep my promise. Claire takes the document. She flips through it quickly. Her eyes scan the pages. It's dense, technical, full of specialized terms. And if you make a single mistake? Victor asks with a smile of anticipated victory. One single error, and you admit this was a mistake. You apologize publicly, and you return to your job without saying another word. Claire looks at the contract. Then she looks at Mary Walsh at the back of the room. Her friend has her hands clasped as if praying. She looks at Lauren, who watches her with hope in her eyes. She looks at the 300 guests waiting for her answer. And finally, she looks at Victor Blackwood, the man who represents everything wrong with the world. Power without responsibility, wealth without empathy, arrogance without limits. I accept, Claire says, but before beginning, she adds, with one condition. Victor raises his eyebrows. Condition? You're not in a position to negotiate. Yes, I am, she responds. If I translate this without errors, you keep your promise immediately. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today, here, in front of everyone. Victor smiles. It's a cold smile, calculating. Deal. He extends his hand. Claire shakes it. His hands are soft, manicured. Hers are rough, marked by years of hard work. But in that handshake, something changes. Victor feels for the first time in decades something he had forgotten: fear. Claire has just accepted the most difficult challenge of her life. 50 pages of international legal jargon. One single error and it's all over. Can she really translate a document that even the most experienced lawyers wouldn't master? Or has she just fallen into Victor Blackwood's final trap? Claire opens the contract to the first page. The stage light is too bright. The silence is so dense she can hear her own breathing. 50 pages. Her eyes scan the title. International Merger Agreement between Blackwood Holdings, Inc. and Rothschild Development Group Limited. She translates, International Merger Agreement between Blackwood Holdings, Inc. and Rothschild Development Group Limited. Victor crosses his arms, smiles. This contract was drafted by 3 law firms over 6 months. Tax terms, European regulations, international arbitration clauses. No one can translate this without prior preparation. No one. Claire continues, whereas the parties hereto wish to combine their respective business operations in accordance with the terms and conditions set forth herein. Whereas the parties hereto wish to combine their respective business operations in accordance with the terms and conditions set forth herein. Her voice is clear, firm. She doesn't hesitate. She turns to the second page. Clause after clause. Complex terms. Labyrinthine syntactic structures. Force majeure shall include, but not be limited to, acts of God, war, terrorism, civil unrest, natural disasters, and any governmental action that prevents performance of contractual obligations. Force majeure shall include, but not be limited to, acts of God, war, terrorism, civil unrest, natural disasters, and any governmental action that prevents performance of contractual obligations. James Thornton pulls a copy of the same contract from his briefcase. He follows Claire's reading line by line. His face shows growing amazement. She's not guessing. She knows. Claire reaches page 10, an extremely technical tax clause. Tax implications shall be governed by the double taxation avoidance agreement between the United States and the United Kingdom, as amended in accordance with OECD guidelines on base erosion and profit shifting. She pauses. For the first time, she hesitates. Victor leans forward. His smile widens. Any problem? Claire closes her eyes. Breathes. In her mind, the pages of a book open. An international tax law manual she read 2 years ago. In the public library, at dawn, after cleaning offices for 8 hours, she opens her eyes. Tax implications shall be governed by the double taxation avoidance agreement between the United States and the United Kingdom, as amended in accordance with OECD guidelines on base erosion and profit shifting. Perfect. James Thornton looks at Victor and shakes his head. No error. None. Claire continues. Page after page. Her voice never fails. She doesn't stumble. She doesn't hesitate. It's like watching an expert pianist playing a complex symphony from memory. Indemnification. Each party shall indemnify and hold harmless the other party from and against any and all losses, damages, liabilities, and expenses. Indemnification. Each party shall indemnify and hold harmless the other party from and against any and all losses, damages, liabilities, and expenses. At the back of the room, Mary Walsh cries silently. She knows the complete story. She knows what Claire sacrificed. 11 years ago, Claire was 22. She was the best student of her generation. She spoke 4 languages. Professors said she would go far. Then she got pregnant. The child's father disappeared. Her family rejected her. She had no money, no support. But she had Matthew. And for Matthew, she left everything. She worked as a waitress, as a nanny, as a cleaner, anything that allowed her to pay rent, food, diapers. The last semester of university remained pending. The degree suspended. But every night when Matthew slept, she read, studied, learned, because someday she promised herself she would return. She would finish what she started. She just needed time. Claire reaches page 30. The room remains in absolute silence. No one has moved. No one has left. Everyone is hypnotized. Liquidated damages in the event of breach shall be calculated at a rate of 0.05% per diem of the total contract value, not to exceed $6.5 million. Liquidated damages in the event of breach shall be calculated at a rate of 0.05% per diem of the total contract value, not to exceed $6.5 million. Victor no longer smiles. His face is pale. Beads of sweat appear on his forehead. Lauren watches him from the side of the stage. For the first time in years, she sees her father as he is, not as a giant, as an ordinary man, a frightened man. Page 40. Claire translates international arbitration terms, International Chamber of Commerce procedures, applicable jurisdictions, dispute resolution mechanisms, everything perfect. Robert Mitchell puts away his phone. He's no longer recording. He's paralyzed, ashamed. Page 45. Only 5 pages remain. Victor desperately searches for an exit. He interrupts. This is taking too long. Maybe we should... No, James Thornton says in a firm voice. Let her finish. The lawyer looks at his client, at his boss, at the man who pays him a 6-figure salary, and for the first time in 15 years, he dares to contradict him. Let her finish, Victor. Claire reaches page 50, the last one, the final clause. This agreement constitutes the entire understanding between the parties and supersedes all prior negotiations, representations, and agreements, whether written or oral. This agreement constitutes the entire understanding between the parties and supersedes all prior negotiations, representations, and agreements, whether written or oral. She closes the document. She places it on the lectern. She looks at Victor. I'm finished. The silence is absolute, total, as if the entire world were holding its breath. James Thornton reviews his notes. He goes over each translation, verifies each technical term. Finally, he looks up. There are no errors, he says in a clear voice. Not a single one. 50 pages of complex legal terminology, translated with absolute precision. The room explodes. Some applaud. Others shout. A woman stands up and yells, "Incredible!" Claire doesn't smile. She doesn't celebrate. She just looks at Victor Blackwood. I fulfilled my part of the deal. Now you fulfill yours. Victor steps back. His face is a mask of fury and humiliation. He searches for words, excuses, some way to escape. This doesn't prove you can run a company. Translating contracts isn't... Dad, Lauren says, climbing onto the stage. Enough. She stands in front of him, small but firm. For once in your life, admit you were wrong. Admit you underestimated someone. Admit your power doesn't make you better than anyone. Victor looks at his daughter. He sees in her eyes something he had never seen before. Disappointment. You don't understand how the real world works, he says in a broken voice. I understand perfectly, Lauren responds. You built an empire on the backs of people like her. And now one of those people has proven she's worth more than you. The words cut like knives. Victor looks around. Everyone is watching him, waiting, judging. He's trapped. Finally, in a barely audible voice, he says, Fine. A deal is a deal, but his eyes shine with something dark, dangerous. Claire notices it. She knows this isn't over. I want you to say it clearly, she demands. In front of everyone, in your words. Victor clenches his jaw. Each word hurts, as if he were chewing glass. Claire Rivers. He stops, breathes. Is the new CEO of Blackwood Holdings. The room erupts in applause, but Claire doesn't smile, because she knows something no one else knows. This is just beginning. Victor Blackwood has just kept his promise. But is he really willing to hand over his empire to a cleaning woman? Or is there something darker waiting in the shadows? Claire achieved the impossible, but at what cost? The applause echoes through the room like thunder. Claire remains motionless on stage. The gray uniform contrasts with the bright lights. Her face shows no triumph, only exhaustion. Victor Blackwood descends from the stage without looking at her. He walks toward the side exit with quick steps, almost fleeing. Robert Mitchell and other executives follow him like frightened puppies. James Thornton approaches Claire with the original contract in his hands. You need to understand something, he says quietly. What you just did is historic, but also dangerous. Claire looks him in the eyes. Are you warning me or threatening me? Warning, the lawyer responds. Victor isn't a man who accepts defeat. He'll find a way to... To what? She interrupts. Break a promise he made in front of 300 witnesses? With dozens of recorded videos? With journalists present? James sighs. There are many ways to destroy someone without publicly breaking promises. Claire nods. She knows. She always knew. Thank you for the warning, Mr. Thornton, but if I back down now, all of this will have been for nothing. The lawyer looks at her with something like respect. You're braver than I thought. Or more naive. I'm still not sure. He walks away, leaving her alone on stage. Mary Walsh runs up. She hugs her tightly, trembling. Claire, I can't believe what just happened all this time. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because it didn't matter. Claire responds in a tired voice. An incomplete degree doesn't pay rent. Knowledge doesn't feed my son. But now nothing has really changed, Claire says, looking toward the exit where Victor disappeared. It's just begun. Lauren Blackwood approaches. Her green eyes shine with contained tears. I want to apologize, she says, for my father, for all the years of this. She vaguely gestures at the room, the luxury, the opulence, the injustice disguised as success. You don't have to apologize for him, Claire responds. You just have to decide if you want to be different. Lauren nods. I want to help you. I know how my father operates. I know his strategies, his lawyers, his contacts. If you're really going to be CEO, you'll need allies. Claire looks at her with surprise. Why would you do that? Because I've spent 28 years living in a golden cage, Lauren says in a broken voice. And for the first time, someone had the courage to break the bars. If you can do it, maybe I can too. The two women look at each other. Different worlds, opposite lives. But in that moment, something connects them. Humanity. 3 hours later, the ballroom is empty. The lights have been turned off. The guests have left. Only messy tables remain, abandoned glasses, and the echo of what just happened. Claire walks through the service corridor. She has removed her uniform. She wears her usual clothes. Worn jeans, gray sweatshirt, white sneakers. Outside, the Boston night is cold. The cobblestone streets gleam under the streetlights. She takes out her phone, dials. Mom, it's me? Yes, I'm finished. No, everything's fine. Can you put Matthew on? She waits. She hears her son's voice on the other end. Hi, sweetheart. No, Mommy can't come tomorrow. Something happened at work. Something good, I think. I'll tell you Sunday, okay? I love you. Sleep well. She hangs up. She stares at the phone. A tear rolls down her cheek. She has won a battle. But at what cost? Suddenly a voice startles her. I didn't think you'd actually pull it off. Claire turns. Victor Blackwood is leaning against the hotel wall. He has a glass of scotch in his hand. His perfect suit is wrinkled. His hair disheveled. Are you following me? Claire asks. It's my hotel, he responds in a dry tone. Technically, you're on my property. He approaches. He smells of alcohol and contained rage. I want to make you an offer. I'm not interested in your offers. Listen to me, Victor says, raising a hand. $650,000, immediate transfer, in exchange for you retracting. Say it was a misunderstanding, that you don't want to be CEO, that you just wanted to prove a point. Claire looks at him without expression. No. 1,300,000, Victor says, raising the stakes. Think about it. With that money, you could finish your degree, buy a house, give your son the life he deserves. My son deserves a mother with dignity, Claire responds, not one who sells herself. Victor laughs. It's a bitter, empty laugh. Dignity? Do you really think dignity matters in this world? I've built an empire without it, and it works perfectly. It works? Claire asks. Is that why your daughter looks at you with disappointment? Why you had to humiliate an employee to feel powerful? Why you're here, drunk, offering money to fix your wounded pride? The words fall like hammer blows. Victor staggers slightly. The glass trembles in his hand. You don't know who you're messing with. Yes, I do, Claire says calmly. I'm messing with a man who has everything except the only thing that matters. Real respect. Not fear, not flattery. Respect. Respect is bought, Victor says in a hard voice. No. Respect is earned. And you've never earned it. You've only bought it. That's why you lost it so easily tonight. Victor hurls the glass against the floor. The crystal explodes into 1,000 pieces. His face is red with fury. Tomorrow you'll regret this. I'll find a way to remove you. You can't run my company. It's not your company, says a voice from the shadows. James Thornton emerges from the corridor. He carries a folder in his hands. What are you doing here? Victor asks. My job, the lawyer responds. I reviewed the company bylaws. I reviewed the board meeting minutes. I reviewed every legal document. He opens the folder. When you made that public promise, you created what's called a binding verbal contract. There are witnesses, there are recordings, there's clear evidence of offer, acceptance, and fulfillment of conditions. Victor pales. You're fired. You can't fire me, James says calmly. I resign. I've spent 15 years being an accomplice to your abuses. Tonight reminded me what it means to be a lawyer, defending justice, not the powerful. He hands the folder to Claire. Here's everything you need. Contracts, bylaws, procedures. The board of directors meets Monday at 9 in the morning. You'll need to present yourself as the new CEO. Claire takes the folder with trembling hands. I don't know if I'm ready. No one is ready, James says. But you're the only one who dared to demand what's right. That alone makes you more qualified than most. Victor looks at his former lawyer with pure hatred. I'll destroy you both. Try, James responds. But every threat you make from now on will be documented. Every move will be watched. You're no longer alone against a vulnerable employee. You're up against the truth, and truth always wins, eventually. Claire looks at Victor one last time. I don't want your company, Mr. Blackwood. I never wanted it. But you made a promise to humiliate me, and I turned it into justice. Not just for me. For every invisible person who works in your hotels, your offices, your buildings. She turns around. She begins to walk. See you Monday, she says without looking back. At 9 o'clock sharp. Victor is left alone in the empty corridor, surrounded by broken glass, defeated by a woman he never really saw. Until tonight. Claire has won the battle. But can she really survive Monday? What will happen when she enters that boardroom full of executives who despise her? And what will Victor Blackwood do when he has time to plan his revenge? 3 years later, the morning sun streams through the windows of the 20th floor. The office is spacious, bright, with a view of all of Boston. On the wooden desk is a golden plaque that reads Claire Rivers, CEO. But Claire isn't sitting behind the desk. She's on the floor, playing with a 14-year-old boy, Matthew. Tall for his age, bright eyes, a smile that lights up any room. Mom, do I really have to go to that meeting with you? He asks while assembling a puzzle. It's boring. It'll only be 30 minutes, Claire responds, ruffling his hair. I want you to see how important decisions are made. Someday, maybe you too. I want to be an architect, Matthew interrupts. Not a CEO. Claire smiles. Then you'll be the best architect this world has ever seen. A knock at the door. Come in. Lauren Blackwood enters. She no longer wears designer clothes. She wears jeans, a simple white blouse, hair pulled back. She works as human resources director. She redesigned all the company's labor policies. Good morning, boss, she says in a playful tone. The board is ready. How's the atmosphere? Tense, Lauren admits. Some still believe you don't belong here. 3 years later, they still believe it, Claire says, standing up. I suppose I'll have to keep proving it. Or you could just ignore them, Lauren suggests. The numbers speak for themselves. Profits increased 32%. Staff turnover dropped to historic lows. We won 4 corporate social responsibility awards. Claire takes her jacket. She puts it on. She looks at her reflection in the window glass. She's no longer the woman in the gray uniform. But she's not a cold, distant executive either. She's something in between. Something new. She's herself. You know what's strangest? Claire says, looking at the city. Sometimes I miss cleaning offices. It was simple, straightforward. You finished your shift and knew exactly what you'd accomplished. Do you regret it? Lauren asks. Claire thinks about it. Really thinks about it. No, but I don't celebrate either. This wasn't a victory. It was justice. And justice isn't celebrated. It simply is. They walk together toward the boardroom. Matthew follows behind, playing with his phone. In the corridor, they pass Mary Walsh. She's no longer a cleaning employee. She's a services supervisor. Claire hired her the first day as CEO. She tripled her salary. She gave her complete health insurance. Good morning, Claire, Mary says with a warm smile. Good morning, Mary. How's everything going? Perfect. The new employees are adapting well. The working conditions you implemented, Mary gets emotional, are changing lives. Really? Claire nods. That's all that matters. They enter the boardroom. 12 executives are seated around a long table. Some smile. Others barely disguise their disdain. Claire takes her place at the head. Good morning, everyone. Let's begin. The meeting lasts exactly 30 minutes. They present numbers, discuss strategies, approve projects. Claire directs with precision. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. Her authority comes from elsewhere, from knowledge, from integrity. When the meeting ends, everyone stands, except one man seated at the end of the table, Victor Blackwood. He's no longer CEO. He no longer makes decisions, but he remains the majority shareholder. He attends all meetings. He never speaks. He only observes. He has aged 10 years and 3. His hair is completely white, his face gaunt. He no longer wears Savile Row suits. He no longer smiles. Claire looks at him before leaving. Any comments, Mr. Blackwood? He looks up. For the first time in 3 years, their eyes meet. And in that moment, something happens. It's not forgiveness. It's not friendship. It's recognition. Recognition that she was right. No, Victor says in a hoarse voice. No comments. Claire nods and leaves the room. Outside, Matthew waits for her. Are you done? I'm done. Can we get ice cream? Claire laughs. Sure, but first I have to stop by a place. 20 minutes later, they're in front of Harvard University, the historic building, the stones that tell stories of centuries. Claire walks through the corridors with Matthew by the hand. They reach a small office. She knocks on the door. Come in. She enters. An elderly professor looks up. Gray hair, round glasses, British accent. Professor Williams? The man looks at her. His eyes widen with surprise. Claire? Claire Rivers? The same. The professor stands up. He hugs her. I can't believe you're here. You disappeared. How long ago? 11 years? 12. Claire corrects. I had to abandon the last semester. I know. I always wondered what happened. You were my best student. Claire smiles. Life happened, but I came to finish what I started. She takes an envelope from her bag. She places it on the professor's desk. Here's my final project, Thesis on Legal Translation and Social Justice. 50 pages, 3 years working on it during the nights. The professor takes the envelope with trembling hands. You want to graduate? I want to close that chapter, Claire says. Not for the degree, for me. To prove to myself that I can finish what I start. The professor nods. His eyes shine. I'll review it personally, but if it's half as good as what I remember of you, I have no doubt you'll pass with honors. Claire shakes his hand. Thank you, Professor. For everything. She leaves the office. Matthew looks at her curiously. Are you going back to study? No. I'm going to finish something I left pending. There's a difference. They walk through the campus. Young students rush past. They carry backpacks full of books, dreams in their eyes, future in their hands. Claire stops in front of an old tree. On its trunk, someone carved a phrase years ago. Knowledge is the only treasure no one can steal. She stares at it. Matthew reads aloud. It's beautiful, Mom. Yes, she responds. Very beautiful. She takes a marker from her bag. Below the old phrase, she writes in clear letters, and dignity is the only power no one can buy. She walks away from the tree. She takes her son's hand. They walk toward the campus exit. Mom, Matthew says, can I ask you something? Of course. How did you know you were going to win that night? At the hotel, when that man challenged you. Claire stops. She looks at her son. His eyes reflect the same question she asked herself 1,000 times. I didn't know, she admits, but I knew something more important. What? That even if I lost, I had already won, because I dared to face him, because I dared to stand in front of everyone and say, I'm worth something. And that, my love, no one can ever take from you. Matthew nods. He doesn't fully understand. He's still too young. But someday he will understand. They leave the university. The sun shines over Boston. The old streets tell stories of victories and defeats, of empires that fell, of voices that rose. Claire looks back one last time. She sees the building where she studied, where she dreamed, where she broke, where she now returns, not as a student, but as what she always was, someone who refused to be invisible. 3 months later, Claire Rivers graduates from Harvard University. Matthew is in the front row. Mary cries. Lauren applauds. And at the back of the auditorium, almost hidden in the shadows, Victor Blackwood watches silently. He doesn't applaud, but he's there. And that says more than 1,000 words. That night, Claire returns to her apartment. It's no longer the 7 by 10-foot room. It's a warm place, with light, with life. On her desk, she places 2 objects side by side, her university degree and her gray cleaning uniform. She looks at them for a long time. Then she takes a photo of both. She posts it on her social media with a single sentence. Neither of these defines who I am, but both taught me who I want to be. The post goes viral. Millions of people share it. Hundreds of women write telling their own stories of struggle, of sacrifice, of dignity reclaimed. Claire reads every message. She cries with some, she smiles with others, and she understands something she didn't know that night at the Fairmont Copley Plaza. She didn't win just for herself. She won for all the silenced voices, for all the invisible hands, for all the mothers who work at dawn while their children sleep. She won to remind the world that a person's value isn't measured by their title, or their money, or their power. It's measured by their courage to stand before injustice and say, no more. And sometimes, just sometimes, those 2 words can change the world. Dignity isn't begged for. It isn't negotiated. It isn't bought. It's worn, like an invisible uniform, in every step we take toward the light. If this story touched your heart, if it made you reflect on the value of the invisible people you encounter every day, share it. Subscribe to this channel where every week we bring stories that restore faith in human goodness. Because the best stories aren't about perfect heroes. They're about ordinary people who dare to be extraordinary. See you in the next story.